Hey, what's up, Tekken players? Woo. Oh. Do you, do you know what I hate about being right all the time? Literally nothing. Ah, it's pretty cool. Some of these other content boys should try it. It's pretty cool. All right, so for this one, I wanted to make a video, but I decided there are so many people who are so sad and angry all over, like, Reddit and apparently Twitter as well right now, that what if we just like hang out and laugh at Namco together live, and maybe that'll make the cold hard realization that this is for some people a little bit less rough, and the rest of us can just have, a really good time. You know what I think is pretty great with all this? It's like when I made the first few videos really going against stuff like the Tekken store and things like that, maybe 50% of the comments were people trying to defend Namco and saying that I was wrong, that I didn't understand modern game development, that I was naive, and stuff like that. And then for every single change that they've made to the game, the ratio in the comment has shifted, because more and more people are like finally realizing what is actually going on, and they're jumping to the sort of right side of the fence, which is really, really cool. This isn't about me like, oh, I told you so, or anything like that. It's more like the more people actually give them as much shit as possible for how pathetic they are being, the better, because they will eventually be forced, like all these other development teams all out there in the world right now who are trying to make, like, fucking political speeches into video games and stuff. They're all going fucking bust because nobody wants to buy your shit anymore. And if we just keep punishing them for the really, really shitty decisions, which is our role really as consumers of the product, I mean, the more likely we are to end up with an actual good playable product in the end. Do you know what I mean? So, but it is pretty funny. All right, so I wanted to read some Reddit reactions to this, and then I thought we might as well talk about the patch notes as well. Now, mind you, I used to be a half-decent Tekken player, but I haven't played this game in a while. I know what moves are problems still, though, so we can still comment on what I think about the patch notes. But the really interesting thing to like note right away is Namco have made some pathetic shitty what's this, the Ghost of Tekken? You can have you can have the Ghost of Tekken on your main menu now. The Ghost of $5. We've had some really dramatically pathetic choices from Bandai Namco in the past, but the store, revealing the store after the fact was the biggest one for me, but we've had many. I mean, I would have to like bring out some of my notes if I was going to list all the really pathetic, shitty things that Namco have done. But up until now, half of the reactions, if you go on to something like Tekken Reddit, were people sort of coping or defending or calling people toxic or negative for having a very reasonable view on these things. But it seems like this Genmaji Temple stage, which is free content if you have the season pass, no matter how you twist it, being $5, even if you have the Ultimate Edition or the season pass, really does seem to have been the straw that broke the camel's back, because half or more of all the threads on Tekken Reddit right now are about people pissed about this, and nobody is defending it as far as I can see. I refuse to pay for Genmaji Temple as an Ultimate Edition Season Pass owner. This has, 1,500 upvotes, 400 upvotes in 15 hours. Here's another one. Thanks, I hate it. Oh, this one as well. This is bullshit. I agree. And then, you always have the fucking casuals who are jerking off to some sort of superficial, pointless feature that doesn't change anything about the game, such as I can, look at my main character on the main menu. I mean, it's cute, but it doesn't do anything. It cost me to uninstall the game. There you go. There you go. What's up, Tekken payers? Exactly. Boycott, so some people are trying to get a boycott going of this stage. I think that might actually be, I've never tried to organize a boycott on anything like Tekken content related before, even though I've been very, very critical of how they've been rolling out and monetizing content. It would be really interesting, like if people just refuse to buy this stage. Now, I don't know how it's going to work, but I remember when I started to hate the way Bandai Namco were monetizing things in Tekken 7, I stopped buying stages. So I never bought the Kunimitsu stage, which is called Crimson Gates or whatever. It's based on this beautiful temple in Kyoto called, I think it's called like Fujimi or Fushimi Nari Jinja. But I never bought that stage. But then when I was playing online, because all the other fucking suckers out there bought the stage, I could play on all the time. I was on that stage. I learned how to gauge the distance to the wall perfectly, and I could just play on that stage no problem because everybody else bought it. So I don't know if they're going to do that with Genmaji Temple as well. Like if just a couple or half the community buys it, then the other half, because we mainly play online, are going to be able to play the stage anyway because the other person has it, which is so fucking funny because it means that the rest of us can basically piggyback on these fucking whales, dude. And we can get content for free. That'd be pretty cool. Both players need to own the stage. All right, so so they noticed that little gray area, that little mistake in their monetization policy that, oh, wait, these fucking players are playing on our monetized stage for free. Shut it down. Shut it the fuck down, dude. We are going to address the main way in which people are coping in this video, because people are still coping. But they're coping in a very, very specific way. And they're appealing to your sympathy. And we're going to talk about why that doesn't make sense in a little bit. But first, I want to read some of these reactions. Hey, what's up, Phil Collins? I'm a fan of your music. Weren't the Tekken 7 stages free? No. You had to pay for the Kunimitsu stage. You had to pay for, but I think they came with the character. I don't remember exactly, but I think if you bought Kunimitsu, you got the Kunimitsu stage. If you bought, the Lydia character, you got the Lydia stage. But I don't know. I disagree that those games like Concord are failing because of political agenda or whatever. All those games are just shit. That's pretty much it. Well, that's also part of it. But here's what you have to realize. If you have a really, really solid, amazing game, and it has all these subtle themes baked into its world and its storytelling, then I don't think players would mind if they don't necessarily agree with the political message of the content or whatever. But here's the thing, right? When you have like a great piece of art that addresses something thematically, whether it's a video game or a great novel or a movie or whatever, it shows you a bunch of perspectives or tries to put you in a certain perspective on a certain thing, but it doesn't like lecture to you and tell you what the correct takeaway is. That's not really how good art works, and I think that's the real distinction, right? So for example, I think Lord of the Rings is like a major thing for me. I love those books. I've read them many times over, and I have also how do you stay so based in Sweden? It's difficult, dude. But the main, like when I was a kid in Sweden, and I do love some aspects of this country and certain fucking things about it, but I know exactly what you mean. But I knew when I was a kid that I did not fit in here. And then when I was like 19, 20, as soon as I got out of school, I left. And then I came back, 2, 3 years ago. So there you go. But okay, so going back to Lord of the Rings, right? If you read the books, I think they are tackling certain themes and talking about certain things. But then you watch the movies, and excuse me, a lot of people have like a lot of different views on what the Lord of the Rings films are about. I think they're very different from the books, even though they are still very good. And I always saw the at least the last two movies of the Lord of the Rings franchise as films that deal with they're talking about addiction, right? That was my takeaway when I watched them, because Frodo is growing like more and more like addicted and dependent on the ring, and he has this complete fucking destroyed homeless junkie Gollum traveling with him, and the only thing that gets him through to the other side of his like dependency is the fact that he has a friend or a loved one who will stick with him no matter how many times he gets betrayed or tread on, and how fucking dark it gets, right? So that's like the Frodo story for me in the films, and it's not like that in the book in the same way. So you learn and you think about a lot of different things, and you sort of get enriched cognitively when you watch those films. But the Lord of the Rings don't have like scenes where Gandalf looks at the camera and goes, this is what you should think about these things. And by the way, don't forget to vote this September, And by the way, this is the right color. So that's the reason I think a lot of these more obviously politically informed and agenda-based video games are failing. It's not only that like they have political themes, it's also that they feel condescending. And even if they're like average games, you might buy an average game and have some fun with it, but if you want to reject it because you feel like it's talking down to you, then you're the whole review bombing thing happens, and the game's just gonna fail spectacularly, right? Anyway, let's get back to Tekkit and talk about. I'm gonna read some of the reactions in some of these threads, and like I said, like everybody on Reddit is talking about only this right now. And apparently the same thing is happening on Twitter, even though I wouldn't know because I don't have Twitter. But maybe you guys, if you see some funny takes, definitely share them. This is the big one. Bandai Namco nowadays are milking any player in any games. The whole reason, capital R, why generally games from Bandai Namco and EA are mostly bad. Alright. Cool English. Ultimate Edition should include all the shit they sell otherwise, or else it kills the purpose of having the Ultimate Edition. Well, I think they pissed off. Like, here's the thing about pissing off the people who bought the Ultimate Edition. Hey, thanks, Midnight Green. This message cost me 1 Tekken stage? Oh, no! Hey, thanks, man. Here's the thing, right? The people who bought the Ultimate Edition or who bought the Season Pass are the people who are like the most devoted and interested like in spending time with the franchise long term, I think. And so pissing specifically them off is a little bit more dangerous. I think they are going to cope for longer, because when you buy an Ultimate Edition of a game, it comes with a tank, and a mask that's just feeding you fucking high octane copium because you don't want to feel like you got ass fucked by the developers, even though you obviously did if you bought any special edition of anything. But I mean, you're at the point now where these people are like, holy shit, it's a scheme, you know, and I've been had, and they're pissed off. There's a nice breakdown of all the editions on the Tekken Wiki. Okay. Tekken 7 editions. Definitive edition, you get everything. Originals edition, you get the first season pass. I mean, charts like this, I think it's already gone too far. This is already too much of a fucking headache when it gets to this. It's Bamco, not the devs. The devs don't want this shit. Okay, so I mentioned earlier that we were going to talk about the main way in which people are coping about what is still happening with this game. And Crisis Jack, I think you are a perfect example of a person who is still coping somehow. I mean, there's a point to what you're saying, right? There's a point to what you're saying. And FeeDX just dropped a long-ass video where he explained his entire take on this, right? Okay, so I watched it because I was grocery shopping a couple of hours ago, and I heard him say this exact thing. So what people are saying now, the mental gymnastics that they are resorting to cope at this late stage in the shit show is Bandai Namco are doing this, and they are forcing the devs to do it. They are forcing the development team and the Tekken team to implement these things into the game. Now, first of all, I want to say something right here, okay? That might well be true, but as far as any of us know, it could also be complete fucking speculation, okay? If you're sitting around with literally no information on what happens inside the walls of Bandai Namco, painting the dev team as martyred heroes who are being used by the corporate overlords within their own corporate structure doesn't make sense, because we don't know if that's the case. I can tell you this. Harada himself is now head of esports at Bandai Namco, as far as I know, okay? He's a marketing executive, so he is not a developer who's working hands-on with coding or implementing things into the Tekken game anymore. Okay, so are we going to paint him as a person who is actually part of the development team and trying to make the game good for the players? Or is he the tyrant who's implementing all this bullshit? Or is he some sort of go-between between, you know, the corporate overlords, the shareholders, and the people who are coding the game? Fact of the matter is, we have no idea. We don't know how that works, and it doesn't make sense to speculate on it. But here's my point. As the consumer of this product and somebody who paid money to buy it, that is not something that I have to fucking worry about, okay? It is not my job to sympathize and try and realize how everybody who works in this company and on this development team has to feed their families and has to do a good job or whatever. That's the whole thing, right? And I'm not cold, I'm not being a bastard about this. I assume that every single human being out there who isn't a complete psychopath is just a person working very hard to provide for themselves and the people they love. That's true of everybody in the chat, myself, everybody who works at Bandai Namco. It's true of everybody. But here's the point. We, the consumer, we do not have to sympathize or speculate or mythologize what is happening inside this company and try and find reasons why it is somehow okay that we are being literally ass fucked without lube when we spend way too much money on a product that doesn't work and we're being constantly lied to. It really is that simple. Now, it may well be true that the development team are like, okay, so here's a scenario that I saw in my head. I just saw this like vivid scene, like from a fucking TV show, when I was listening to FeeDX's video, and this might well be what have happened, but again, we don't know. So some corporate bigwig comes into the Tekken team's offices, and they look down at what they're working on, and they go, well, so you're releasing Heihachi, the character, for, this amount of money, but what about the stage? You're just bundling that in for free? And the developer goes, well, no, that's just how it usually works when we do a season pass. The character comes with the stage, and the stage is usually part of the season pass. And then the big wig, the corporate guy, goes, well, is that in writing? Have we promised that they get the stage for free? And the developer goes, well, technically no, but there is going to be massive backlash if we try and do anything different here. And they go, split it apart, make the stage a separate thing, charge $5 for it, there you go. And the guy is either too scared or too much of a pussy, or just values his job enough that he doesn't question it, or maybe he does question it, gets fucking fired, and the decision gets made anyway. That might have been what happened, but it might equally be true that the Tekken team are jerking off thinking about how much they hate all the Tekken players and how they're going to nickel and dime you for every fucking pixel they put into this game. And those are equally valid fucking theories on what is happening at Bandai Namco. We simply do not know. But my point is, we should not have to think about or care about that, okay? We are the consumers, we paid the money, we have a faulty product, and we want to criticize it, and we have the right to criticize it in any way we want. And if we feel that we have been lied to or cheated, then they actually owe us. And that's the way it works, right? I don't care. I mean, I understand, of course, that the dev team isn't the same thing as mandates coming from the shareholders, but that is not my fucking job to worry about. Just isn't. Okay? I know a lot of people work in software development and tech, and they also play video games, and they're like, I know what it's like, you're working crunch. I mean, something FDX said is like, oh, I heard about those earthquakes in 2011 when the dev team couldn't get back to their houses, so they were sleeping at the office. So they obviously care about Tekken. Okay, sleeping at the office, first of all, that's just living in Japan. Let me tell you, okay? I've slept at my place of employment many times because they just fucking expect you to work that hard, okay? And you make just enough money to survive. So if you lose your job, you're not making rent this month, fuck you, okay? The other thing is, if an earthquake happens and you cannot get back to your house, then having a nice warm office to sleep in is actually a fucking privilege. You know what I mean? If they had to sleep at the office because they really wanted to roll out this great free content that was going to fix a game that isn't working properly, and they care enough about it that they would do that, that's a different fucking issue. But when a natural disaster makes it so that you can't get home on the train, how the fuck are you committing by sleeping at the office? You have no other option. What do you mean? They fixed everything. Okay, let's read some more. I can't do this anymore. Tekken isn't for me anymore. Customization was half the reason I played the game, which is fascinating to me. I mean, it's, people love the customization. I never understood it, but, some people really care about it. I guess I can't talk because I play World of Warcraft, and I think transmog is one of the most fun parts of that. Pure greed. Could have sworn Lydia's beach stage came with her. Yeah. If you read the deluxe edition, they decided to call it Character Pass instead of a Season Pass. Very scummy, but I think we should have seen it coming, knowing them. That's another thing. So if it's been called the Character Pass since the Season Pass came out, if it's been referred to as a Character Pass, then they had obviously planned this from the beginning, which is why they decided to call it that. But it's also interesting how, this fable or this example or experiment or whatever of you can put a frog into boiling water and it jumps out instantly, but if you put it into room temperature water and then gradually increase the temperature until it's boiling, it won't notice and it will be boiled alive or whatever. I don't know if that's true. I hope nobody's actually tried it, but I think that's very, very much what's happening here, right? Because they released the game without the stage, and then they put the stage in, and then they don't have a season pass, but then they put the season pass in. They might have had the plan from the beginning to make you think that stages were going to be part of the season pass, and then they just try it. You know, they see what they can get away with gradually, and they eventually get away with more and more. Now, one of the main reasons, like, I get a lot of shit for being as critical as I am of this franchise right now. Less and less, honestly. These days I get like 98% likes on the videos I make when I call Bandai Namco pathetic, you know, cocksucking prostitutes. But it's like, if we don't react very, very dramatically in some sort of a very, very noticeable way when things like this happen, we can never expect things to change. And so when you are like holding out hope or trying to cope or understanding the feelings of the dev team or trying to put yourself in their shoes, or like you know, maybe they'll do it right the next patch or the next season, and then there's just another fat dick in your asshole with the next update, you are perpetuating all of the problems. Okay, you don't have to feel sorry for them. They're fine. They're adult human beings with jobs and a salary and lives or whatever. I mean, don't attack anybody personally or whatever, but you can say whatever the fuck you want about this product. And if they cry, it's probably because you're right, okay? So here's the thing. We need things like this happening on Reddit and Twitter and YouTube or whatever. We need them to make literally no fucking money on this stage, because it's the only way it's ever going to get better. And when you make the argument that they need to do this for Tekken to be a sustainable project for them long term, I mean, that is so fucking dumb, because something I can absolutely fucking guarantee is that there is no such thing as a corporation rolling out products like these on you know, like live service games or whatever. There's no such thing as them making enough money. Okay, they are not saying we need to make X amount of money to make Y product sustainable. They are saying we need to make infinite money. So how do we min-max this as effectively as we possibly fucking can? And it's a process that they are experts at, that is being studied academically, all the way down to behavioral studies on humans, to fucking brain scans, to data gathering and large language models fucking analyzing and adapting to human behavior that we aren't even aware of. They have it down to a T exactly how to maximize how much money they can make on one single project. And if they can make a little bit more, they will try to. It's not that they need to make enough money for the product to be sustainable. Let me tell you, Tekken 8 sold millions and millions of copies when it came out. Okay, so based simply on that, there was always going to be a fucking Tekken 9. There was always going to be a Tekken 9. But why would you make Tekken 9 now if you can make fucking morons pay 10 times more for Tekken 8 over the next decade, right? It's very, very important to say no and react dramatically to these things. It's the only power you have. It's the only fucking power you have. And so sitting around sympathizing about how, like, oh, they work really hard and they're listening to the players, well, it's not my fucking problem. It really isn't my fucking problem. I work for a large corporation and I try and do a good job, as far as I can every single day. But when something goes wrong, when we have a guest at the hotel that I help manage who has had like a horrible experience because we did something wrong, I'm not like, hey, give me a break, I just work here. No. Harada tweeted. Okay. Can we see it? He tweeted. Good. Okay, this is interesting. We're getting updates live. What's his tweet? What's his tweet? Hey, what's up, Daniel Hennington? Yeah, I'm doing really good off stream. Really good. I don't know if you can tell, but I've been losing weight. I've been doing yoga and stuff. His Twitter page? I can't see his Twitter page because I don't have Twitter. Could somebody like link it? You can't link it here? I don't know how to fix that. Okay, what do we do? I mean, somebody's obviously going to post it on Reddit within seconds anyway. Maybe somebody could just copy paste what the text says. Is this tweet in Japanese? Stretching is better than yoga. Well, I'm actually doing stretching, not yoga, so I don't know why I said yoga. It's very long and juicy. Okay, so is it just like is it crisis management because they're realizing they fucked up? Because here's the thing, like Harada, he doesn't do that sort of thing unless you've really, really fucking hurt them. So I think the reaction that we're getting this time is actually achieving something. Thank fucking God for, I mean, the Tekken community at large at least having enough of a spine that when you shove a fat unlubed cock into their ass for the 32nd time since January, they actually go, no thank you. Put this after twitter.com. Okay. Here we go. Here we fucking go. This is going to be fascinating. I can't wait to read this with you guys. Okay. I understand the community has some questions about the release of this stage DLC. We have literally 0 questions, Arada. Questions is not what we have. We're not curious about your fucking reasoning behind this. We know exactly what you're fucking doing, and what we have... what we have aren't questions, dude. As the person in charge of the Tekken franchise, I apologize. Good. It was made clear from the beginning that the Year 1 Season Pass would not include stages, but even so, when the Lidia Sobieska DLC was released, the Seaside Resort stage was a free update, and in this case, oh my god, dude. He definitely had help writing this. I wonder how many fucking PR people jumped in. Even though the additional story mode, which should have had the highest development cost, is a free update, but Ginmaji State was sold separately, and as a result, the release ended up being one that was not well understood or accepted by everyone. At least the almost all community was expecting a pattern similar to that of Lydia. Well, it's not just based on what you did with Lydia. It's just like based on what you expect as a fighting game player from a season pass, okay? So don't like pretend that you're not doing something that isn't the industry standard right now. There are various reasons for this, the main one being we need to make a lot of fucking money because all of the other live service dog shit games that my company tried to roll out last year were fucking failures in large part due to their predatory monetization. Oh wait, that's not what it says. It says, there are various reasons for this, but I will talk about the background to this as an individual in order to increase transparency to some extent. The Tekken project is divided into two companies, a game development studio and a publisher that is responsible for game sales. At the time of the Tekken 7, the development and publishing companies were not separate. Okay, so you made a big fucking mistake, in other words. I mean, okay. So, but I mean, as somebody who, I mean, I don't work in game development, and the time when you separate those two entities, and one team is responsible for like monetization and marketing, and the other is responsible for developing the game, the writing is on the fucking wall. Now I know, like most scenarios in modern game development, you have a studio and developers that make the game, and then you have another company that publishes it. But I mean, there has to be some sort of cooperation. There has to be some sort of lateral relationship between the two. As some of you know, I moved to the development studio side a few years ago and have been focusing on maximizing the quality of the content, tech, graphics, etc. The development side and publishing side have their own roles, and there are differences in the way they think and the responsibilities. I, who should be the one to act as a bridge between the two, have not been able to properly participate in the publishing sales decision-making process, and as a result, okay. I think there were parts of the process that did not take the Tekken community's opinion into account. So, I mean, he's trying to take some personal responsibility for what is happening here, which I think is honestly uncharacteristically cool. Because I'm not one of those people who think that Katsuhiro Arata tends to be cool or down with the homies when it comes to how he communicates. But he's basically throwing his sales team and marketing team under the bus right now, which is very, very dangerous in the corporate world in general. But when you work in Japan, as some of you may know, the development have their own roles. Okay. I think I failed to create an organizational structure that would allow me to oversee things beyond my own position. One of my roles was to listen to the opinions of the community and reflect them not only in the content but also in the out game. But I was clearly becoming passive, worrying about the relationship between companies and not exercising my role. From now on, I will review this structure and change it to one that values the community as they did in the past. Okay, so here's the thing. I think this is the most interesting takeaway. The most interesting takeaway that you can take from this. And I also think this is one of the most fucking monumental tweets that we've ever had when it comes to Tekken, okay? They fucked you in the ass and we coped, and then they fucked you in the ass and we coped, and then they fucked you in the ass and we coped, and then they fucked us in the ass, and then I stopped coping and made a couple of salty videos, but most people kept coping, and they fucked us in the ass, and they fucked us in the ass, and they fucked us in the ass. And when they fucked us in the ass for like 58th time, there was finally a dramatic, violent, and appropriate response from the community at large. And immediately, I mean within hours of us realizing that this is how the content was going to be rolled out, we are seeing some radical fucking tweeting that we've never had before. And this is why it is important for you to express it when you are dissatisfied as a consumer. Because if enough of us do it, then things will fucking change, because they have to. Now, one thing to definitely keep in mind is that Harada makes a lot of fucking promises all the time, and then he does nothing. They've promised us anti-cheat. They've promised us all kinds of things that they've never done. Never fucking done, and never even looked into. But they keep lying and pretending that they will do. So this right here, I mean, it's very promising. But so far, remember, so far, nothing has happened. And now, our main job as the Tekken community is to hold the Tekken team and Bandai Namco to this, okay? We need to make sure that they actually deliver on what this fucking says. That's our job. Not to go, he listened, oh my god, we're being seen, we're being listened to. No, fuck that. These are words, but now you have to walk the walk. And once they've walked the walk and the game starts becoming better, you know, maybe we can all play it and enjoy it, but we're not there yet. I wouldn't celebrate too early. There you go. I mean, this is huge. This is fucking huge. But you know what's a nuance of this that I don't personally like is Harada, because you're looking well. Do you have a swear jar? Love the hat, by the way. I don't have a swear jar. I when I was a kid, my mother was very strict about language, and she did not like me swearing, but I would swear a lot. And then I got older, and I realized that I think that swearing is some of the most evocative and fun to use language that there is. I mean, I'm not stupid. Like when I'm at work and I'm in a professional context, I don't swear because it's not appropriate. And when I'm there, my main responsibility is to do a good job. But if I'm just, you know, on my own YouTube channel where I get to do whatever I want, I will express myself in a way that like feels visceral and fun to me, and so I will swear a lot. Which and you know, if I do it enough, I've definitely done enough this stream that I won't make any money from the video. That's a decision that I'm happy to make because we're just having fun talking here. When I'm hanging out with friends, I have a very, very filthy mouth, but most of my friends see the humor in it and laugh at it and enjoy it. And if somebody is like offended or disgusted by the way I speak, then it's just an indication that maybe we shouldn't be communicating regularly, you know. English isn't possible without swearing. I mean, it depends. But another thing that happened to me in my 20s is that I realized how much I love hip hop and how much I love rap music. And I think rap music is a space where, I mean, obviously you could write fantastic rhymes without using swear words, but sometimes they fit in a way that is like not only perfect, but it's sort of integral or organically a part of the language that is being like utilized to construct the narrative or the vibe of that song. So yeah, personally I don't have a problem with swearing at all. And I think, what sort of hip hop words are we talking about? Damn, you guys are trying to trick me. I'm not falling for it. Hard R listening to. That's not what I'm saying. Damn. You guys are you guys are out for blood. Say it. I don't say the N-word. I don't say the N-word. I listen to the N-word, and when the N-word is being used in a song that I love, I think it can elevate the song. I think it can make it a better song because that's the way the person wrote it, right? Like, think about it this way. You're listening to a great rap track, and it's the radio edited version, and so it bleeps all the N-words, the shits and the fucks and all the rest of it. And it's just not, I mean, when an entire song or a genre of music is built on lyrical structure, you can't bleep individual words, because if you look at an MF Doom song or an Aesop Rock song, they have rhyming schemes that you need to listen to like entire fucking verses to like get a sense of the entire fucking pattern going on. And when you just bleep random words in that, it makes the whole thing just blip out of existence as far as I'm concerned. And so if you're listening to that radio edit, it's basically because you like the instrumental or the hook. So you're listening to the rap track as if it were fucking pop music, but I don't think that's the point. And that's why I love saying the N-word all the time. The N-word, Nakadashi. It's my favorite Tekken developer, Matsuhiro Nakadashi. He's the guy. Matsuhiro Nakadashi is the guy that they bring in when they want to. You know, if you look at the crotch of any female Tekken character when they're doing some sort of jumping attack at the end of the round, and you can tell that even though you can't see the Vagoosh, the anatomical structure of what is going on there has still been modeled. He's like the one who is in charge of like the pubic bone when it comes to the character model. You know, somebody will look over this new DLC character that they're releasing and realizing that I don't think this vulva is coming across as very realistic. And we're not going to be releasing these 16, 17-year-old schoolgirl characters into this fighting game without realistic looking anime vaginas. So they have to bring in a Nakadashi, and he animates that shit in perfect fucking detail, you know? Because he's a deep, literal student of fucking female anatomy, and he nails that shit every time. He's also famous for being the guy who pioneered the horse vagina mod for Skyrim. Anyway, what else is going on with Tekken? Pay to see the actual attack, otherwise you just get a generic combo placeholder. That's going to happen eventually. I mean, if you look at Harada's tweet, part of the texture is what he's saying here is that there is a failure to communicate going on, because he's saying actually when you got the Lydia stage for free, that was us being generous. That was us giving you something for free that we probably shouldn't have. We gave you all this stuff for free when that wasn't the plan, and now we're going back to our regular agenda and schedule, which is to charge for all of this. ArtCQ is sending me something on YouTube that he wants me to watch. Let's check it out. Loving the Sonic music. That's what he gets for a hop kick. Ooh! Wait, that's his... This is him punishing minus 13. Heat dash, no install. Demon breath. Whoa! 58? That's more damage than a Leo player gets for a full combo. Not anymore, I guess. $93 damage, 13 frame block punisher without the wall, by the way. Without the wall. Oh my god. This is in the open. He can get the wall. I think the music we're hearing right now is actually from Sonic Adventure, the first one on the Dreamcast, or Sonic Adventure DX. which was a great little Sonic game remake for the GameCube. Try telling me that the content team doesn't work with the marketing team after that video. Well, it could be exactly what you're implying, that they are breaking characters that they want to sell on purpose to make more money, which we know that they've done in the past. I mean, Leroy, whatever. But it could also be something that I've speculated on for a long time, that the people who work on the development team for Tekken are really fucking bad at the game, and they didn't even find that combo. I mean, it takes a real Tekken player who's played Heihachi a little bit in the past 2 or 3 minutes, but most people who work on actually developing Tekken suck ass at the game and can't get out of fucking Warrior Mighty Genbu rank. Sonic Unleashed is trash. It has a good soundtrack. I like Sonic Colors, probably has the best soundtrack out of the modern games. Best Sonic OST of all time is obviously Sonic 3 and Knuckles. Is Mishima Star not a balancing game designer? I've played against Mishima Star and I beat him, so there's nobody on the development team that's better than me, and that's a problem. You should have people who are way better than me on the team, working on the balancing. If I can fuck up the best Tekken player who works for the Tekken team, then we have a problem. Sonic Heroes, PS2. I played it on, I think, GameCube. It was cool, though. Should pros balance it? I think a couple of pros should be involved in the process. Definitely. A couple of pros should be involved somehow. And I'm not saying like go and find a couple of pros on the scene and like invite them to consult, but I don't know how else you would do it. You need some people who are actually able to push the highest possible ranks in the game. And having one guy who is called Mishima Star and who is obviously choking on Mishima dick, being the only good player on the team, maybe that's the reason we have Mishima's be such a fucking balancing nightmare and a problem in the game. Public test server. Hey, 8-Bit Pineapple, you actually have a really good point here. And okay, so this is another thing, another cope that people have been throwing around in relation to this patch is, okay, so in the past, for all past Tekken games, we've had an arcade release, and then we've had the main release, and it's been like changed, and it's almost like we get a full version 2.0 with all these improvements when it comes to console. And this time they didn't do an arcade release, so we've basically been playing the prototype. Here's the thing, though. Again, do not forget that you are the consumer in this scenario. If they decide as a company to bring a product without this massive beta test period that they usually have directly to a worldwide market, then they need to adapt and make sure that the product in question is up to the fucking task. And if it isn't, again, you are completely within your rights to complain about that and to tell them that they did something wrong, right? I don't think that they were unable to have sufficient testing for the game before releasing it to a global audience. We had 2 weekends of beta testing. There was like a network test, and then there was like an alpha beta test. Here's the thing, though. It was like 2 days at a time, and you had to get a fucking code or whatever. How about you extend that beta test, make it an open beta test, and make people play it for 2 weeks? I mean, the way they do in a Blizzard game. What happens in some of the modern Blizzard games, and it's not like I'm unaware of the problems with that company, but if you're playing World of Warcraft, or if you're playing, Diablo 3 was the perfect example, because it had a small, very dedicated community of people who are very good at that game. I love that game and played it a lot at a pretty high level. And so they would release a PTR, and you would just push your characters to the max rank, and you would find all the exploits, you would try out all the gear, and then they would roll out a new patch changing or fixing a bunch of those things, and then you would provide feedback and they would change it again. And then on like the fourth time, when they were happy with the balance and everything, they're like, everybody's going to have fun with this. Some of the characters that were weak last season are going to be strong this season. Let's release it to market. Then you got to play the full release. That's a very healthy way of doing it. But having like a 2-day network test and then releasing an unfinished piece of shit product with no anti-cheat, I mean, to a global market of millions and millions of people across both PC and console, it's an amateur fucking move. And every fucking millisecond of backlash you got as a consequence is well deserved, right? I bought the deluxe edition, all the battle passes, and yet Bamco are charging me for a stage. Exactly, dude. I wonder how much money is like the maximum amount of money you can spend on Tekken 8 so far. I know that it had some special editions that went for, I mean, how much? $400, $380, and then you can buy every battle pass, every item in the store, I guess. I mean, you can spend a lot of money on this game if you choose to. Tekken 7 stages came with the characters. Falk had his stage, Kunimitsu as well. Yeah. So that's the reason I didn't have the Shrine stage. I never bought Kunimitsu. Because I hated her and she was broken dog shit for bad players. Look, the MTX sales doesn't go into the pockets of the publishers. It gets put back into the game. All the stages going forward are free. One day we would like to have a piece of that for ourselves. Yeah, he lied again. They lie all the time. I think one of the most disgusting and pathetic lies that they have done in recent times was on that last Tekken Talk panel where they talked about pluggers and they said, well, you know, a lot of us fighting game developers, we are developing new tech to detect cheaters, and we are changing, you know, we are like laterally exchanging information and techniques with one another. So maybe you guys should take a chill pill because we're working on it in the background and we're doing all this Black Ops stuff to ban cheaters. Meanwhile, I bet you can go and watch fucking Low Tier God and Fairy Boris stream this game right fucking now. I don't know how advanced or amazing your new like cheating banning techniques are, Bandai Namco, but if you have thousands of hours of footage of people cheating in this game while screaming the N-word, and you still can't fucking get rid of them, then I'm sorry, you've done diddly fucking squat. You have done absolutely fucking nothing. I'm usually okay with the cosmetics and microtransactions, but this one affects gameplay a lot. If I was a tournament organizer, I'd ban this stage out of principle. It's a problem because the main tournament that people pay attention to is organized by Bandai Namco, the World Tour, right? So you don't have that option. It looks like a lot of people are making the choice not to buy this. I mean, if that's true, I think it's absolutely fantastic because it's like the first time. It's the first time people have actually reacted appropriately to one of these dog shit ass fucking decisions from this company. King J is pausing his streaming career. I didn't know that. Does it have anything to do with him not liking the game? Because if that's true, I think it's healthy for the game. I mean, I always liked King J. I only played him once online. I don't think he's aware of me and knows who I am because I went to his stream and he was like, "Fuck you, bitch!" And he was playing Marduk and I was pushing his shit in and he got really salty and butthurt. And then after like I don't know 3-4 games, I left. And he's like, "Yeah, you better run away before I fuck you with my Marduk." So he was being a bitch about our match, but you know, whatever. I always like King J. Plays cool characters, plays Gigas. I hope he's doing okay. As if playing Marduk in Tekken 7 shouldn't come with a guaranteed fucking death sentence the moment you do it. Let's look at some balance changes. Balance direction Elisa, we did nothing. Okay. Oscar, we did nothing. Brian, we did nothing. Devil Jin. Adjustments were made to Devil Jin to address unintended behavior, along with easing the difficulty of using Heat Smash. It's really hard to use Heat with Devil Jin. You have to press like 2 buttons, and and then the entire screen explodes in a guaranteed death combo. It's really hard to use his Heat. A change was implemented allowing Devil Jin to return to a standing position after Heat Smash is blocked without transitioning into Morning Crow, making it easier to leverage his strength and powerful guard breaking abilities. They actually buffed his chain Heat Smash? Okay. Additionally, similar to Heihachi, who was released in 1.08, Electric Wind Godfist can now be executed with the input forward neutral down forward 2. So they gave a Devil Jin perfect electric. I mean, a lot of people have been saying that Devil Jin is not a good character in this game. I think you can play him at... I mean, I played him with 2 moves as a joke one time and got like a high rank. But whatever, you know. I'm never going to agree with the Mishima community about Devil Jin. It's just not going to happen. I think they need to remove Laser Scraper, Steel Pedal, and his L Sweep. But, you know, it's just we're too opposite in our views on the game. But him having a perfect electric it's kind of a big deal at the higher end of Tekken, because he's going to be like block punching with perfect electrics now. I mean, it's hard, but it effectively makes your electric as Devil Jin 1 frame faster if you're really good, which, I mean, it's only occasionally going to matter, but it is a buff to a move and a move archetype, the electric, that I think is already problematic design and way overpowered. But, you know, okay. It's now possible to prevent the transition to Morning Crow by inputting back during block, okay. But that's the Heat they're mentioning up here. Tracking ability of the second hit has been enhanced. Collision detection while rising 2. Okay. Dragunov. Here we go. You called it 9 months ago. It's a Kusoge? Yeah, of course it's a Kusoge. And it's also got Kuso monetization. Wait, so who has perfect electric now? I think Devil Jin has it, Heihachi has it, Kazuya has always had it, and I think they gave it to Reina as well. So I think you've got 4 Mishimas who can perfect electric in this game right now. Am I right about that? All but Devil Jin? No, Devil Jin has it now too. So everybody but normal Jin. Yeah. All but Jin. Okay, cool. Or, you know, cancerous and problematic, but, you know, unless you're a Mishima boy, which you are because you play Tekken, and everybody who plays Tekken is a Mishima boy, and you could get rid of the rest of the roster and nobody would notice. Dragunov's damage on some of his exceptionally powerful moves was reduced. So this is a thing that Namco like to do when a character is incredibly overpowered. They don't want it to address any actual issues or go into any actual properties. People like to call it caution, or them, you know, wanting for people to soak in or adapt to a patch or whatever. What it actually is a lazy fucking change, because they can go into their little window and change a number from 15 to 10 and then say that they've fixed or nerfed something. But the problem with Dragunov, even though his damage is broken, isn't his damage. It's his constant fucking frame advantage. But they changed the damage of, back 4-2, 15 to 10 on the second hit. Only the second hit, so it's a minimal change. Back 4-3, changed the damage from 20 to 16 on the second hit, minimal change.
Quarter circle forward 4, one of the most broken moves in the history of Tekken ever. Again, the damage isn't a problem. Gone from 27 to 22. Chip damage on block from 5 to 4. So they haven't changed Dragunov in any single way as far as I'm concerned. And these damage changes, if you like played out the scenario of you playing a match against a Dragunov 100 times over, this would make the difference between a loss or a win in a round maybe 1 out of 50 to 100 times. So it's effectively an absolutely nothing change to one of the most broken characters ever in a fighting game. But, you know, they are listening and they are fixing everything, so that's good. What do you think about the quality of the netcode? I'm not an expert on netcode. A lot of people are like really into the technical aspects of what netcode is and how it works. All I can tell you is what it feels like when I play a fighting game compared to another fighting game. And with Tekken 8, I have a powerful computer and a good internet connection, and I have had minimal issues. But then there have been instances where the native lag or those stupid lag frames that happen at certain intervals in Tekken 8 have been a real problem. So, I mean, listening to the people who know a lot about netcode, they aren't happy about the netcode in Tekken 8. They're saying that it's still sort of ancient and not very good. But, you know, Fang, a character who I think is, if possible, maybe even more broken than Dragunov, we're sort of on the same level. When transitioning into shifting clouds during block, the character's forward movement has been increased to reduce the distance to the opponent. Okay. The tracking capability of the second attack in 4-1+2. Okay, so no changes to Feng, really. He should have been nerfed through the floor, by the way. 5 patches ago. Hwoarang. Unintended behavior was fixed. Nerfs made in 1.05. Due to the difficulty opponents faced in countering him, it was felt that the compensatory buffs lacked appeal. Okay, so they're going to buff Hwoarang because people were butthurt about them nerfing down 3-4. It's like the most comically cancerous thing you could fucking do to Hwoarang, but there you go. Okay. Solid Hwoarang buffs. There you go. Did they make Lars less flowcharty? Nah, I don't think so. He unironically needs it. You know, he might. He might. I mean, the thing about Hwoarang is that you can play Tekken for 10 years and know how to play against Hwoarang, but you still don't actually, because it's just like too much of a fucking nightmare. But if you like really genuinely know everything, then he apparently at a high level is not as strong as he feels like he is when you're just being blasted by cancer dog shit in a bad online match. So, you know, maybe. Jin was not subjected to balance adjustments, which is a problem because Jin, again, so overpowered that the game is barely playable. I think he's officially the most played character in the entire game right now because you can play him with your eyes closed, using only your elbows, and get God of Destruction on your first day of picking up Tekken using Jin right now. So he should have been nerfed through the floor. Through the fucking floor. And then when he's been nerfed through the floor, everybody should just gather. The millions of people who own this game should gather up and just piss and shit into the hole that Jin was nerfed through. And then he should drown in piss and shit. Kuma Panda, unchanged. Lars. 1-1-1. The opponent's behavior on hit has been altered to induce wall stun. Okay, so 1-1-1 is a 10-frame counter hit heat engager. It's a 3-hit string, and if the first hit is a counter hit, then the whole thing is natural, and the third hit is the heat engager. So it's like a really strong counter hit option for him, but it didn't wall splat before. So it's going to wall splat now. I guess it is a pretty good change for Lars. It's not a major buff, but it is it's not a non-major buff. It's something. It's something for Lars. It's a good move. People use 1-1-1 when they play this character. What is broken on Jin besides down 2 and the heat smash that wall crushes? Those two things are enough, but his 10 frame block punisher is broken. His demon paw is completely broken. Shouldn't be a heat engager, shouldn't be safe, shouldn't be mid, shouldn't have the range that it has, shouldn't track as well as it does. Ford 4 is still broken. Everything about every move that Jin ever uses is broken. Like he doesn't have a single balanced move. But what you need to realize is when I talk about balance, my general opinion of the game is that a vast majority of the characters need to be nerfed down by about 50%. So when I say that Feng is this broken and Jin is this broken, I'm aware that a bunch of characters are like similar to them, but I've always said that I think all the characters need to like get nerfed so fucking hard they are considerably weaker than they are now, and then the round can breathe and people can think and move and do things, and it's not just about sticking the safe mid that activates heat and ending the round as soon as possible. You know, it's very difficult to play any dynamic, interesting Tekken when the general average level of a character is as overpowered as it is right now. Nina, another super broken character. Has a high difficulty in execution. I mean, for some people. Most people don't do anything difficult with Nina. They just face roll. Considering the frequency of her aerial combos and the relatively low risk of her combo starters, the damage of techniques frequently used in aerial combos was reduced. So it's nerfed combo damage for Nina. 22-18, 23-22, it's nothing. Okay. They're at least nerfing some of the right characters. Change the damage from 20 to 30 on Paul's deep dive down 4-2-1. Okay. Damn. And better hitbox expanded downward. Oh, so they're making it more difficult to side roll Paul's down back too, which is his like, you know, big like sort of scoopy pickup thing that he does for grounded damage when he gets like guaranteed damage on knockdowns. I heard about this change. They made Raven's 443 launcher, but it's -12. So it's a Punisher now. I always like this move for Raven. I think it's the most iconic Raven move. Pretty cool, I guess. If they nerf the entire cast, people will just flock to the strongest characters. That is true, Holy Star. That's what they do currently. But if the strongest character was half as strong as the strongest character is right now, it might still be a balancing issue, but you would still not like necessarily be subjected to the same safe mid over and over and over again until heat inevitably activates and you die to the next mix-up. You know what I mean? So even though people would still flock to the new strongest character, that character, you might still be able to strategize against them in all these different ways if you're playing a weaker character. So I think the general level of strength in the game needs to go down by like a huge margin. Like I think the worst character in Tekken 8 should be like even worse. I think it should all be brought way, way, way down. But you know, it's got a lot to do with heat, and you could address a lot of this by changing or removing or doing something to the heat system. My latest idea for fixing this entire game is removing heat engagers and just keeping the universal heat, which can now be sidestepped consistently, which is a great change for defense. But because heat engagers are what they try to build this new version on, that's never going to happen. And because all of the, you know, Mishima boys who are abusing these broken mids to like get ranks they don't deserve, are doing nothing but safe mid heat engagers when they play online. You don't want to piss off basically the entire community by, you know, removing the one thing they are using or exploiting to win. Because then you piss off even the few people who still, you know, are playing Tekken 8. Okay. So what do you guys think about the balance changes overall? My takeaway right here is that they really didn't change anything significant about any character except for like the Raven launch. and it's just a big load of nothing. Yeah, didn't hit drag hard enough. That's absolutely true. They fixed everything. Good take. Good take. It's nothing. No, I kind of agree that it's nothing. Dragunov snooze fest for the Tekken World Tour. You know, it's another argument that I heard FDX make in his video was that he loves the fact that the development team release balance patches slowly, that they try and have like they try and let patches really sink in before major offline events or tournaments, because they want the pro scene to adapt and to like to learn the current patch and all the minutia of it. Here's my take on that. Fuck the pro offline players in the ass. Fuck them to fucking hell. I mean, I get that, you know, they can go to tournaments and they do a lot for the scene in terms of publicity or whatever. But the fact of the matter is, if you are going to leave characters like Dragunov this poorly balanced for months and months on end, every single day that Dragunov isn't balanced because you want to jerk off the offline pro community, hundreds of thousands of online matches are played by millions of people all over the world, and they suffer with an inferior, shitty fucking product because you want to cater to a part of the community that makes up 0.1% of the player base, okay? The online players, the casual players, the online warriors, the people all over the world who never ever go to any fucking Tekken tournament are the people carrying this franchise. They're the people who carry it financially, and their matches make up a vast majority of all the matches that are ever played. And so if you're going to let the game sit in a state of poor balance for a couple of months because you're worrying about a tournament that is coming up and you have all these interesting brand deals that you're going to bring into the advertisement of that event, go suck a trillion dicks, because you are prioritizing in a way that makes no fucking sense, okay? Every single person who spent $70 or more buying this game matters as much in terms of how considered we should be by the development team. And I don't give a fuck, you know, how many tournaments Arslan Ash is going to and winning in this game right now. I stopped watching tournaments for this game years ago because they are abrasive advertising campaigns where Rip sits around with a fucking Kazuya doll and breaks its leg on stream like an embarrassing fucking television shopping program, and it's just a fucking nightmare to me to watch. So I don't give a shit about that anymore, but I still want to play this game that I paid $70 for. So can you balance that and fix all the issues with it? No, because this high profile person whose dick we want to suck, you know, needs to fucking learn all the minutia of all the exploits he can do with Dragunov, you know, before we do fucking Evo Japan in a couple of months. Complete bullshit. I mean, the weirdest fucking reasoning I've ever fucking heard from a person. Before tournament, they released Heihachi. It's a huge balance change. And that doesn't stop them. Yeah, okay, I guess. Because it's content they can monetize. I mean, you can think of it this way. They're releasing content slowly, and they're not doing dramatic changes to the balance because they are thinking about the offline scene, or they're basically doing nothing to the game at all except changing some damage numbers because they're lazy fucking cunts who aren't working on fixing the balance of the game, and they're worrying more about, you know, what brand deals they're going to bring into the battle pass and the monetization. Both are speculation, but both are equally valid theories about what's going on with this game. And I'm always going to assume the worst from Bandai Namco based on how they've acted and the choices that they've made in the past, which is the rational, logic, and correct way to base your opinion on something. Okay? It's tit for tat. They burn you 5 times in a row. Expect them to burn you 6 times in a row. You know what's funny? Dragunov has been nerfed a couple of times. He's still, dominating the game. I mean, front to back and upside down. And people were coping about the state that Dragunov wasn't in the original release. He's still like 10 out of 10 tournament characters after like 5 nerfs, and people were like defending him in the base game. It's not like it's hard to fix. It's quite clear what's wrong. That's what irks me. Yeah, I agree. Advertisement showing shoving would have gone unnoticed if the game was actually well made. Not by me. I would still be calling it out because I still think it's fucked up that you buy a full price game and then you're subjected to a free to play monetization model. But by the community at large, yeah, probably they would have gotten away with it in a completely different way. But that's my point with this stream. They push it and push it and push it and push it and push it, and eventually you get to the fucking limit where even the coping whales who like fucking play mobile games and pay for like pay over $10 for fucking anime thongs in their favorite fucking gotcha game are feeling used, right? Do you think Azucena is a good way they tuned an OP character? Maybe. I mean, okay, JT, you could put it this way. Azucena, the main problem was the running move, and the running move was so silly and so ridiculous that it should never have gone into the live game. After it went into the live game, it should have been hot fixed within a few hours or days. And then they changed the running move, and now all of a sudden you can play against Azucena. There are all these other changes to her as well, but it was like a one ridiculously overbroken move, just spamming constant advantage and chip damage on block in your face, and yeah, okay, so they managed to change her in a way that was reasonable, but it was very obvious. It's the same thing where like you need to change the down 2 for Jen, you need to change the running 2 for Dragunov, right? What do you think is going to happen at Bamco HQ? Well, I don't think that... How about this? I'm going to go to the bathroom real quick, and then we're going to wrap this up, and I'm going to tell you what I think is going to happen next, okay? It's a fun stream. Maybe I should become like a React content creator. You can just sit around and talk shit and laugh at people, and you're always right.
Um, okay. I find it difficult to believe that Harada. There is some really bad syntax in this tweet, so it's very possible that he actually wrote this himself. Maybe he had somebody help him a little bit with the translation. I don't know. But I think it's reasonably safe to assume that this is actually a tweet that Harada is writing like personally on his personal Twitter to the Tekken community, and it hasn't been vetted or okayed by any PR people in Bandai Namco. And I don't think they would okay him tweeting something like this if they had any say in it, right? So it is very, very candid, and he is sticking his neck out. But here's the thing. I have worked in Japan for many, many years. And I lived there for the better part of my adult life. And one thing that they are extremely, extremely big on there, which we don't really do here in the same way in the West, whether it's are the women hot? They're famously beautiful in specifically the region of Japan where I lived. They're called Hakata Bijin, but whatever, it's probably coincidence. I think I don't know. I don't know. I was never specifically into Asian women over any other race of women. It just so happened that I lived there, and so the coolest, best person ever that I ran into happened to be Japanese because it was likely to pan out that way. Anyway, they are very, very big on this idea that you take when you have any position of power or responsibility within any hierarchical structure, whether it be a corporation or in politics or whatever. Once you are the head of this specific square of influence and responsibility, the failure of something that happens within that sphere becomes your personal responsibility, and then your fucking head rolls, or you personally need to apologize for what happened, even if it were the case that you had very little influence or power to change anything about what happened. I think in the West we tend to be very individualist. It's especially true here in Sweden, where like I work with a lot of people here who are like, well, I have rights and thoughts and feelings as an individual, and I need them to be respected, and they sort of put that or prioritize that above what is happening with the company at large. And you might say that there's a lot of like of truth and justice and healthy aspects of that, but I think that the truth is that there needs to be some sort of balance in between the two, right? You can't be all about how you feel as an individual, because then you're never going to be able to like take responsibility and work hard and be a useful part of like a larger context. But you also can't be held responsible and have to apologize for things that you literally have had no power to change, even if even when you weren't being negligent or anything like that. But what is happening right here is Harada is saying, right, okay, so we have the people who develop Tekken, and then we have the people who publish and sell Tekken. They are two separate teams. My role is being the liaison between these two halves of the whole, and because I haven't been successful in terms of like communicating between these two teams and prioritizing the right things, we have ended up in a situation where the sales team are making choices that are not sitting well with the community at large, and that is something that I should have like influenced and changed and been a bigger part of. That might very well be true, but here's the thing: we don't want you specifically to apologize or for somebody to take responsibility or resign or whatever. Really what we want more than anything is to not be fucked in the ass and then for the game to be good. It really is that simple, right? And so it's not a witch hunt and whose fault is this or whatever. And really, if things are going to get better, it's not enough that you are realizing that something is wrong. The entire fucking way you do these things needs to change, right? And so it's not down to this individual basis. So while it is
very, very encouraging to see something this out of character for Harada and the Tekken team happening, because the reaction is so visceral and dramatic to this stage thing. The point isn't that we want Harada to apologize to us. If I'm going to be completely honest with you, I don't give a fuck about Harada. I mean, I know he's out there and he's wearing sunglasses or whatever, but I play Tekken and I want Tekken to be, or I used to play Tekken and I want it to be a good game, and he could be involved or not be involved or sit there in these panels or be tweeting or whatever. But I mean, I've never met him. I don't know him on an individual basis. I don't really give a fuck. I want the game to be good, right? And so the fact that you, as a representative of this entire team, seem to be taking some sort of accountability and apologizing is nice in a sense. It's not the point, and it's also the case that every time in the past when you've promised to change and do things, you've lied or sidestepped or fucked around, and we haven't had actual change, and words aren't what we need. So now your job is to make sure that the entire team, or both of these teams, start delivering on the message of this tweet, and you start doing things differently. And I don't think that we as a community should be enthusiastic or supportive of this entire endeavor again until we see actual effective change being implemented. Because, you know, it's very easy for them, and they've done this in the past, to sit on a panel and go, we are going to work hard to fix plugging. Now look at this fucking, you know, I don't know, fucking room heater with Kazuya's face on it that we want to sell you, and then nothing happens with cheating, you know? We are going to fix all the balance issues. Look at this new fucking lily-shaped dildo that you can shove up your asshole. $49.99, you know, limited edition. So, actual fucking fixes, concrete changes, maybe an actual roadmap. But, you know, we're not there yet, but this is powerful. We actually did something today as a community. And here's the thing, don't feel bad about being critical or upset when you feel that a product that you are paying for is under delivering, because that is exactly your role in this scenario. You don't have to consider the personal fucking relationships within this corporation that you don't know anything about, and these people that you will never meet, okay? It's a corporation that sold you something for a certain price. You paid that price with certain expectations based on certain promises. If they deliver, good. If they don't, fuck them. It's that simple. Fuck them. Harada and Murray are not your friends. Yeah, and they're not bad people doing something evil either, okay? They're just faces on the screen, but it doesn't matter. You will never meet them, and if you do, I mean, maybe that's why some of these content creators find it difficult to be visceral and critical. Maybe that's why they're like, oh, I want to give the dev team the benefit of the doubt, because they've looked these people in the eye. They've awkwardly fist bumped them at some event, and then they've gotten a literal fucking paycheck straight to their email inbox from these people. And that makes it a lot more difficult to be objective and logical in this situation. But I don't think I'm being disproportionately vitriolic or critical. I think I'm doing exactly what a disgruntled consumer is supposed to do in this scenario. Okay? Like if you've walked up to this like awkward ginger guy who's kind of jittery and has like an awkward voice, and this like sort of middle-aged, very eccentric weirdo Japanese dude with sunglasses, and they're like, hey man, thanks for coming out, you know, and you're at this event together, and they're like, you know, talking about this game that they work on and that you play a lot, and then they're like, hey, so this is what we're going to do for this event, and we're really excited about your content, and by the way, here's like a couple $1,000 for endorsing our new shitty patch. It becomes a lot more difficult to tell them to fuck off when they do something completely wrong. But Luckily, I'm not in that boat. I don't have that problem. Matchmaking changes, yeah. The shut up and take my money. Hey, thanks, Justin Clark. Thanks, you guys. Little things make people feel indebted. Yeah, but that's how the seeds of corruption are sown. Somebody takes you out to dinner and you have a good time, and now there are dicks in your asshole. Okay? Somebody invites you to some sort of exclusive event, you get VIP access, you have a good time, but now you go home at night and you feel normal, but there's something a little bit uncomfortable going on, and you realize, damn, there are corporate dicks inside of my asshole. And all of a sudden, when I sit down in front of a camera, it becomes very, very difficult to tell the truth. And it might be, I don't know, but it might be because of these dicks that I have in my asshole. And once the dicks go in the asshole, they don't come out, okay? You're gonna need a team of people to fucking dig that shit out. Because they're like those fish in the Amazon that swim up your urethra and then fucking activate the reverse spike mechanic where they're like lodged in your urethra and you have to get them surgically removed by cutting your dick open down the length of it. Okay? When you're an Axis journalist and somebody invites you to an exclusive fucking party to check out their new product and then go ask you to go and write an objective, like really great, you know, an honest review about it, now there are dicks in your asshole and your words mean nothing. If your words are for sale, then they are worthless. Not to you, not to the people who bought your words, but to any unrelated third party thinking adult out there in the world. You're gonna play the new story they added? No. No, but I didn't play the original story either. Did you see Harada's apology? Dude, it's on the screen right now. My take on Harada's apology is a thanks. I appreciate the sentiment, but this is not a solution, and it's also not what we were looking for when we became upset. We didn't want you personally to like feel terrible or have to like be put into an awkward position in the company that you work at. All of you as a fucking amorphous entity that we don't know anything about the internal structure of, just need to do better when it comes to this game. But, you know, whatever. It's nice. It's not about him exactly, and this is my point. You know, you go to Japan and all of a sudden everything is about your personal responsibility and who needs to get fucking fired or, you know, apologize while crying. But we are more, I think we are in this context actually more adult about this sort of thing. Just fix the game, dude. It's childish. It is kind of childish, but this is just how it's going to work. I'll tell you a story, okay? So I'm working for this hotel in Japan, And my manager was a really nice guy. He's one of those guys where, I worked for a lot of people in Japan, but from him, I never sensed even a sliver of prejudice or racism. He didn't treat me differently than anybody else in the company because I was a foreigner, which is quite rare, And he was the guy I had my interview with when I applied for this job. He was a tall, very thin guy. He had a problem with his stomach or his intestinal tract, so he didn't digest food well. So he was very thin and kind of awkward, but he'd been working for this company for a long time, and he was a true professional. Like, I've been working in hotels and hospitality for a while now, and you sometimes meet these people where they've like been doing it for long enough and they're good at it that you sense that they just have this fucking edge and this grace about them, And he was one of those people. And he was like, well, your Japanese is still a little bit awkward, because I hadn't I hadn't had a job in Japan before, so I hadn't really used professional Japanese in context before. But I like you. We'd be happy to take you on. And the guy who owned the company that I worked for was this shady dude who, was probably a member of the mob somehow. A lot of people, when you go into restaurants or hotels, somewhere up the chain of command, you eventually run into people riding in limos wearing sunglasses, so you're not supposed to look in the eye. And our owner was a little bit like that. He was always very nice and respectful to us, but I also knew that he ran casinos and a couple of, I think, if not brothels, then at least love hotels all across the region. And one time, like several years later, my manager, this guy who I really liked, he never expressed any dissatisfaction with the way the company was being run, at least never in front of us, in front of the team. We never knew anything about it, right? But he obviously had all of this insight into what was happening on like a higher level. And one night he was out drinking and he became very, very upset. He's like, no, this is fucked up. We can't keep going like this. We need to change these things. And he called the owner of the company because, he couldn't hold his liquor. And he didn't get through. So he left this long voice message on the owner's phone where he's like, I can't take this anymore. You need to change this and this and this. And he probably didn't swear. He didn't say fuck you or anything, because this is a very interesting thing about the Japanese language. It essentially doesn't have swear words. Like, if you want to tell somebody to go fuck themselves, or if you want to call somebody a fucking bitch or whatever, you need to get creative, because words, really dirty words like that, don't really exist in the language. But he left this long message on the phone, and then he went home, he went to bed, and blacked out, probably drunk. Wakes up the next morning, goes into work. He didn't have he wasn't called into a meeting. He wasn't he didn't get an email or a letter. Kochi 日本にパン屋さんで働きました。Like, cool shit, dude. So, anyway, he goes back into the office, and his desk was like the main desk in the back office of the hotel where we worked. And he just walks up to his desk, and there was a new name tag just lying in the middle of his desk. And he had a name tag where it said his name, General Manager. And there was a new name tag on the desk, and it just had his name, and it didn't say General Manager anymore. And so the message was loud and clear. He took off his name tag, he put on the new one, and he went to work. But he rocked the fucking boat, and he was too honest, and he was inappropriate, and like that, he was gone. There are no unions. There's no fucking HR department that you go and talk to. There's no ombudsman or anything, okay? You rock the boat and you speak out of turn. They slap you, and you're lucky if you still have a fucking job. So, even though this looks a little bit infantile and it misses the mark as far as I'm concerned, because I'm not looking for one specific person here, this figurehead Harada. I'm not looking for his personal apology. I just want the game to change and be better, and not to feel like I am being literally fucked in the ass whenever I boot up this game. I do appreciate that in his reality, this is a difficult thing to do, and it might have consequences for him. That's interesting. Well, it's very different over there. I'll tell you something else about Japan that you might not know. What consequences? I have no idea. It depends. It depends entirely on like where Harada is in this structure of hierarchy. Depends entirely. I mean, if he fucked up here, they might fire him, but I don't think that's gonna happen. I don't know. He's probably smart enough to not take that much of a risk, but I don't know. Don't they tend to hide inside the bathroom? Oh, people hide inside bathrooms. They cry in bathrooms when you work in an office. But I worked before I moved to Japan, I worked as a controller for a major IT consulting firm, a Canadian firm here in Sweden. And I was in meetings and I was answering emails every day, and I was working, in a, giant office, and it was like, a good job, but it was a nightmare for me. It made me very, very depressed, and I actually went home from work sometimes crying because I looked at my watch and I realized that, okay, this took like all my energy. It was so crushing and so defeating, and I get to go home now, eat dinner, and then I have 3 hours before I have to go to bed, and then it just starts over and I have to do it again and again and again. It was very difficult. But then you would run into these people who like had nervous breakdowns or cried in the toilet, and they ended up usually being my friends and the people who like I wanted to hang out with on lunch breaks and things like that, because they had enough of a fucking thing, a mind and a soul going on in the background, that they were worth having a conversation with. The people I never got along with at all, the people who I really like suffered when I had to be in the room with, were the salespeople, the sales department, because they always had the nice suits and the big belly, and they were always talking about which car they were driving, and the fact that they were going to like some sort of resort with the wife and maybe the mistress, for this next whatever, and they wanted to get the bonus, and it was all about, and you could tell they were very comfortable in the environment that they were in, whereas I always felt incredibly out of place and awkward. And it's the first time I ever went to therapy, and I went to therapy once. I didn't really enjoy it or get anything out of it. It didn't seem useful to me, so I never went back. And then I went home and I booted up my computer, and I remembered that when I was like a teenager, I was really into anime and video games, and I thought Japan was really cool. I hadn't thought about that for years. And I was like, what if I just like I try and go there, I try and do something different, and I just get out of here. So I just Googled like, how do you move to Japan? And it turns out the way you move to Japan, if you're like a pasty white boy in Sweden, is you enroll into a Japanese school, you get a student visa, and then you move over as a student. So I had this vague idea that I wanted to go to the south of Japan. So I looked for like schools in southern Japan. I found this school that I ended up enrolling in 15 minutes later. And it took me 15 minutes from having these vague dreams and thoughts and this ongoing depression or whatever. It took me a couple of minutes of actually typing in a search engine to lay out a plan for, okay, I need to save this amount of money. This is where I'm going to go. I emailed the school and I was like, okay, what paperwork do you need from me? How, what are the prices? I looked at airline tickets, and a couple of months later I was on my way, and that laid out the entire like rest of my life. It's how I got into like content creation and living in that country for years. It's where I met the love of my life and all the rest of it. So I think it's it's interesting how taking that first little step towards something new and just sort of breaking out of your everyday life and your routine is really difficult, and it can take you years. But once you're able to do it, things can move really fucking fast, you know? So I always encourage people to, like, not financially take risks, obviously, but like uh, to do the unexpected and to do weird things like that, especially when they're young, because you know, you'll thank yourself. Danish version of you went to Saitama. Hey, cool. Love life didn't go well though. Well, okay. So Shake These Nuts. Did your love life not go well because you ended up dating a lot of women in their late 20s, and then they, you know, all wanted, you know, families and children, and you couldn't get a good enough job as a foreigner to support that kind of lifestyle? Because that's what usually happens to white dudes who try and meet women in Japan. Do you think a lot of your life is much determined by luck? I am a firm believer in determinism. So I think it's all determined not by luck, but it is determined. Like, I don't believe in free will as such. But you know. A lot of fighting over line. Yeah. What's determinism? Determinism is, it's not fatalism. It's like, determinism is just everything that happens is a consequence of all the things that happened before. And all the things that happened before are consequences of things that happened before that. And so it's just like a causal web or a causal chain that is unfolding. And there's no, it's not fatalism in the sense that it's not pre-planned. There's no destiny, but everything is just a consequence. If I have exactly the brain chemistry that I have right now, if every atom in the universe or every molecule is oriented exactly the way that it is right now, then I will always, in this scenario, make this next choice the way I am going to make it. And if I could reverse time back to that point, I'm not then going to make a different choice and create some sort of sliding doors multiverse scenario, because essentially, since isn't that materialism? No, materialism is the idea that everything that is real is in the material universe and can be broken down into physical concepts and constructs and described mathematically, and you're not allowing for anything sort of outside of that realm. But it has nothing to do with free will as such. As far as I know, I'm not a philosophy, expert. There's a Japanese community in Penang, Malaysia. Pretty chill, less conservative. I think overall Malaysia seems to be a pretty conservative place. Most of my Malaysian friends in Japan were very conservative, but still very cool. Good people overall. The Muslim community that I hung out with in Japan in general were awesome fucking people, whether they were from Cambodia, Malaysia, Indonesia. They were super, super cool, super chill overall. How racist are the Japanese, and towards whom? Japanese racism is in my experience, which is, sample size one, so whatever, but in my experience, it is racism, and it is ignorance, but it's a very, very distinct flavor. Okay, so what you need to realize about the average Japanese person that you meet, especially if you go out of the major cities, they are kind of it also sounds like I'm being like very prejudiced towards them now, but you will find overall they are very insecure and cautious about you. And so if they dance around you and they're scared of talking to you and they find you unpredictable and difficult to understand, it's because it's a very culturally homogenous country where everybody speaks the same language, thinks roughly the same things, and here's this unknown entity. And I'm supposed to be able to communicate with this person because I studied English for years and years at school, but I can't because our education system, especially when it comes to language learning, is very, very flawed. So I'm being put in a position where I have to do something that I'm supposed to be able to do, but I can't. So I'm very insecure and scared, and I just kind of would prefer to avoid the situation if I can. You know? That's the flavor of racism you run into. But what happened to what I've noticed, and what most, like, maybe Shake These Nuts will agree, what I noticed is that I met some people who were in their like 50s and 60s who had lived in Japan for decades, and they said, well, I never became a fully integrated part of this society. I never felt that they actually allowed me inside, and I've never actually felt like I am organically part of this society, and I've lived here for 40 years or whatever. But those people, when I try to speak Japanese with them, or I listen to them speak Japanese, I realize that they weren't very good at it. And that's the whole point. Hey, thanks, Guitar Dog. Thank you so much for subscribing. I got good enough at the language that I could hang out with regular casual people after work in a bar or whatever. I could date people and have romantic scenarios or whatever. And because I could communicate with them in their language reasonably well, trust me, I was completely fucking integrated. I was just another hardworking person in the middle of that society who looked different, okay? But some colleagues hated me, some people liked me, some people I got along with. But as soon as I went into one of those scenarios where somebody was very cautious about me and, oh, this foreigner, and yeah, is he going to speak English to me or whatever, as soon as I started speaking fluent Japanese to them, it just calmed down, and then it was just normal. And most people were absolutely lovely and amazing towards me. So I think when you hear that when you hear that thing of like you're never going to be able to like actually be a part of Japan if you move there, it just isn't true. You just haven't put in the effort, and you haven't become good enough at speaking their language. I think that's the bottleneck. That's the bottleneck, really. There are all these shops and stores in Japan. You go there and there's like this type of bathhouse. Okay, this is a sento, which is different from an onsen. And an onsen may or may not have a notemburo. And, it has all these different rules and things. But all the Japanese people know what to do when they go into a shop like this. How to speak when they are in this scenario. And I did as well. So I could just go in and nobody questioned the fact that I was, different looking at all. But when you're there as a tourist and you go to like some place in the countryside and you're like, hey, do I change here? How do I pay? How does this work? And you can't even ask the questions, and they can't even understand the questions. It becomes very, very awkward. And that's basically it. Better not have a tattoo. Yeah, there you go. So anyway, fuck Namco, if we're going to get back on topic. I'm going to end the stream because I'm going to go make I'm going to make a gratin today. I'm going to do an oven bake with pasta, with spicy cheese, broccoli, and bacon. And I'm going to do a side salad. I'm going to start doing that now, and then I'm going to have a nice meal. Arya from TBS told a different experience. I hung out a lot with Arya and talked about life here in Japan, and he's married to a Japanese woman, right? So I mean, he's he's integrated in a big way, but obviously everybody's experience is going to be different and subjective. This is, you know, why does your new apartment look exactly the same as your old one? Because it's another apartment in the exact same building with the same layout. I still haven't found a bigger place. We're still looking though. All right, guys. Thanks for showing up for this. I was going to make it a video and just laugh at Namco, but, you know, it was more fun to just hang out and talk about what's going on. But there you go. I'll say this at the end. The FDX video where he's like, I'm concerned. I support the development team, but I'm worried about Bandai Namco, which was his video. Is really, really good when major names, which I'm not really when it comes to talking about Tekken, when even they have to like admit that something really fishy and weird is going on. So I see that as an absolute win. I don't feel sorry for the dev team. I don't think that the dev team are heroes, but Bandai Namco are the villains, because I don't know, and it's not my job or responsibility to know. I don't give a fuck. Make a better game, you know. That's all I really care about. That's all I need to say or care about, really, as the consumer. But it is very, very good when people express some sort of concern, because I think what we saw a lot during the first few months of this game being commercially available is major content creators refusing to rock the boat or say anything controversial, because Namco do access journalism stuff when it comes to the content and the events that they do. Maybe they don't want to like lose any sort of exclusive access that they have to stuff coming from Bandai Namco, and that's a fucking problem. So the fact that Namco have pushed their shamelessness to a point where even people who are straight up taking paychecks from them have to say something about it, I think that's a very interesting and positive spot to be in. And yeah, like you said, IMOP, Harada responded within a few hours of the outrage starting. And even though this is not a delivery of any kind of change, even though this might just be more bullshit, lies, and words, which Namco are very good at, they promise you that they will do things and then they do absolutely fucking nothing because they are incompetent or evil. It is at least a new flavor and a new direction, and who knows, you know, maybe things will change. We'll see what happens. But maybe, you know, criticizing Tekken and admitting that Tekken 8 is the flavor of the month now, and being a critical bitch and calling the game trash is going to be the new main character that everybody wants to main this patch. Whatever, I'm there for it, you know. I call this shit fucking months and months ago, but whatever. Everybody's welcome on this side of the fence, because the more of us we have on this side of the fence, no more fucking fence riders, you know, pushing the fucking bar up their little vagoosh because they like the way it feels, and the people on the other side, the whales buying fucking DLC and you know, maining customization mode. We need all of you on this fucking side, because it's the only way the game gets better. All right, guys. I'll see you next time. Good night.